Hi, I'm Seth Kaller, and a couple of my ConstitutionDAO friends asked me to show the other copies of the Constitution that I'd been mentioning. So first, here is just a replica of the first page of the Constitution official edition that was at Sotheby's. And that edition was printed on September 17 to 18, 1787. And the estimate was $20 to $30 million. Here's a newspaper, and that's the replica. This is an original newspaper from Philadelphia. There were 5 papers that printed on September 19th, and this is the only one that was a tri-weekly, so it printed on September 20th. And I'm going to open the page. So pages 2 and 3 of this 4-page newspaper it's the Pennsylvania Herald and General Advertiser, and it has the entire text of the U.S. Constitution for the people to be able to see it in 1787. And of course, the famous preamble, which does 2 major things. Defines this nation as the government is owned by the people, and says that their goal is in order to form a more perfect union, which is then and now. America was designed as a work in progress, as proven by the amendment process that's built right into it. So I'll skip over the text of the Constitution, just showing it all briefly, but then you get to the signers, and then you get the 2 resolutions that George Washington signed on behalf of the Constitutional Convention right afterwards. And here's my favorite. So when people are talking about the Constitution, one of the great things to be able to see, to get a sense of what it really is this resolution that the Constitutional Convention sent with the Constitution to Congress in New York, asking them to send it out. And Washington and Congress say, let's try to get that a little clearer, it's impractical in the federal government to secure all rights of independent sovereignty to each and yet provide for the interest and safety of all. So he discusses the necessity of compromise, and that is how the Constitution actually ends up getting approved, is that they tried to take care of the things that would be non-negotiable for any state, and then tried to go for compromise on others. And that's why there were some problematic compromises in terms of the Electoral College and slavery, for instance. But they managed to make it a document that would be able to become useful and stay useful by being adopted. This is in the newspaper, the ads and the kind of things that set it in context. And just in terms of being a people's copy of the Constitution and for display, so the official edition at Sotheby's was printed on 6 pages, and you could show the original right now of page 1, or pages 2 and 3, or 4 and 5, or 6 separately, but you couldn't show the whole thing. Here, the text is tiny to fit it all, but you can see the entire U.S. Constitution from 1787, and I'll get to that asterisk in a second, all on one side, and actually ConstitutionDAO can have these scanned and blown up about 25% bigger. Would be a great way to just share the whole Constitution all at once. I'll skip the last page, but let me also show you, because when we're talking about the Constitution, there's more than one original form of the Constitution. This is the Congress, it's the Articles of Confederation Congress, and their printing is in the Journals of Congress that came a little later. But again, official printing of the U.S. Constitution. And one of the great things of the loss from the DAO's point of view, inability to buy the official edition of the Constitution, is that something like this is actually a much better deal. For one reason, it's less than 1% of the price, and that makes it much easier to display, to share with the public, because when you're talking about a $30 or $45 million document, just moving it, the security, the insurance, those costs are tremendous. But a document that's less than a couple $100,000, a few $100,000, is very easy to insure and move and exhibit to the public. And also, there's the benefit of being able to acquire other things with it. So I have really been pushing for one document that makes the Constitution more relevant today. And that's Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech from the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And at the end, this doesn't have the famous I have a dream part. And the reason is that this was prepared just a couple hours before the speech with his advance text. And that famous part was extemporaneous. But the first page that gets forgotten now and shouldn't be is really about what got us to here, and talking about the Emancipation Proclamation being a great beacon of light, talking about the Constitution and the Declaration. And he says, in a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men would be granted the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious, Dr. King said, that today America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check that has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. So what Martin Luther King is doing there is interpreting the Constitution and the Declaration, taking the parts about freedom and saying, now let's make it come true. Let's make America live up to its ideals. And so when I hear talk about the Constitution, when ConstitutionDAO was trying to buy the Constitution, I'd like to remind people that it was only the Constitution of 1787. The Constitution today is the Constitution that includes the Bill of Rights. It includes, and by the way, the amendments in this print are numbered differently because the first two weren't approved. So the third is actually the first, and the fourth is the second. And this is the text just a couple days before it was approved by Congress, printed in New York, the Capitol. So this is the kind of thing that ConstitutionDAO could also acquire to show and to complete the Constitution with the Bill of Rights, the 13th Amendment, the Voting Rights Amendment, women's suffrage, etc. And maybe even something of Alexander Hamilton, because he was the founding father who was most likely to have been a big proponent of crypto and blockchain and all of the new technology. Here's just another letter that I'm just showing for a moment. It's a printing September 15, 1790, of George Washington's most famous letter, and one that we would do well to learn and repeat, where the punchline is, America gives to bigotry no sanction. And, like the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, they knew that that wasn't the literal truth at the time, but that's what we're aspiring towards. These are pages from George Washington's inaugural address, his handwritten draft. And here's the study for Charles White's famous The Contribution of the Negro to Democracy in America. And here is a Declaration of Independence printing. So like the Constitution, there are Declaration printings that are worth 40 million plus, and there are Declaration printings that are, at the time, even from 1776, much less expensive. And then this is a replica from a little later on. But I think that this is a tremendous opportunity for the DAO to have a collection that really is the beginning of a people's museum that can tour the country and get people more interested in American history. One of my goals is to have people consider the Constitution as really not just history, but also as technology, because technology is the use of knowledge and science to solve problems. And that's what the founders were going for, and that's what I think we need to continue. And sorry about the length and the one-take video, but I actually was just asked to do this morning, and I figured I better get it. And as John Adams said, if I had more time, I'd write a shorter letter, in this case make a shorter video. But I think we're just going to post this as is to give people an idea of the Constitution, because I think this opportunity for the ConstitutionDAO is really tremendous, to be able to take something like history, reinterpret it as technology, and use it to share with the country and share new ideas and how to make this place more democratic and more true to its ideals. So thanks for watching, and feel free to let me know if you have questions about any of the particular items or the other kinds of things that I think the ConstitutionDAO could end up owning. Thanks a lot. Bye.